An entitled woman sees my husband in a store, basically falls in love with him, and demands that he leave me to be with her. When I arrive, she tries to fight me, and whoever the winner is gets to be with my husband. Then there's puke involved. Let me explain what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. When my now adult daughter was almost 3 years old, we had a regular monthly family dinner plan. We would go to a used bookstore that was near a Mexican place we liked and a McDonald's which our kids liked. The Mexican restaurant would let us sit on the porch and bring Happy Meals there for the kids. One night, our son, older than our daughter, was at a sleepover, so we were a party of 3. After eating, we went to the used bookstore. We had a stroller with us so that our daughter could sit in it if she got too tired. She was an easy kid who would just climb into the little stroller and chill or snooze if we were not done browsing. I was looking at cookbooks while my husband was in the kids section with our daughter. I noticed some red-headed chick talking to my husband. I went back to the books for a couple of minutes, and when I look up, the woman is still talking, but more talking at him than to him. He was starting to look very uncomfortable. I can tell she is hitting on him by the way he held up his hand and pointed to his wedding ring. Being me, I let this play out for a few minutes, mostly to laugh about this with him later. As I watch, my daughter goes to him and wraps her arms around him. She gives this woman the nastiest look I had ever seen on her face. I start walking over because I can tell that my daughter is about to say something to this woman that I will either laugh at or need to intervene because of. As I get almost to them, my daughter tells the woman that her daddy already has a mommy for her and that if she doesn't get away from him, she is going to puke on her. My daughter always has had the ability to vomit at will. She had already weaponized it against one of my male relatives with a weak stomach. The woman, not knowing that I was behind her, told my daughter that her daddy didn't have a mommy to go with him, and daddies needed mommies. My daughter looked at me with a look that clearly said, "She is an idiot. Get her away from me now." I walk past the woman and up to my husband. I put my arm around him and lean into him. Then I put the hand wearing my wedding ring up on his chest as I look at her. The redhead doesn't have the sense to just leave the area. She had to start a rant about how I should have been right by him if I wanted to keep him, how he should go with her and divorce me because she would never be away from him, and how I don't deserve a man and she does, so she is just going to replace me and raise my kids as her own. I looked up at my husband and he asked how we kept getting these weirdos that have elevators that don't go all the way up to want to replace me. The redheaded chick loses it and starts saying that she wants to fight me over him, that whichever of us wins will get to keep him. I asked her if she seriously thought I would bother with a fight. He was already mine and I don't believe in fights. I just shoot to kill. Then this lunatic starts screaming at me that I am trying to kill her. At that point, my daughter had enough. She walked over to the lady and waited until the stupid woman bent down to talk to her. Then my daughter puked all over her and sort of up onto her neck so that when she stood up, lots of the puke ran down her shirt. Staff was already on the way over and wanted to know why the lady was screaming. I told them she was hitting on my husband and then wanted to fight me for him. I didn't even know why she suddenly started saying that I wanted to kill her or to shoot her. I didn't even own a gun. She was just being an idiot. Then she got my daughter all upset, so my daughter puked. I cleaned our daughter up and had to rinse out her mouth. On the way home, my husband insisted that we stop and buy her some ice cream. When I asked my daughter why she thought she needed to puke on the lady, my daughter told me that we had already wasted enough time talking and clearly it wasn't going anywhere, so she ended it. My daughter has always had a way of cutting through the garbage in life. So, am I the jerk for how I handled this? What should I have done? There's got to be something seriously wrong with somebody who says, after learning that they're already married, well, I'll just fight the person that you're married to, and then I'll get married to you. As if that has any bearing on what the marriage is at all, or what the relationship is at all. It reminds me of the mentality of a boy in middle school. He thinks that if the pretty girl sees him fight somebody, then she'll magically just like him out of nowhere. One of the top responses was actually a story that somebody responded to this with. I had something similar happen with myself and my longtime boyfriend, now husband. We moved to a new neighborhood and attended the neighborhood Halloween party. I was finishing up setting out candy for the early trick-or-treaters and arrived later than my boyfriend and my son. I find my boyfriend in a conversation with a woman that I'd never seen before, and that's cool because again, we were new to the neighborhood. Except my son comes up to me and tells me that the lady is flirting with my boyfriend. Ha, I think. She doesn't realize he's attached. Okay, so I go up, smiling and friendly, and my boyfriend immediately introduces me as his long-term girlfriend, and he makes sure to mention twice that we had just moved here together, hoping that she would get the hint. I should mention that my boyfriend boyfriend is 16 years older than me, successful and very attractive. Women are always hitting on him. It's just a part of life, and most of the time we laugh it off or I remind him that he's a silver fox. This lady, she took the cake. As soon as my boyfriend walked away, she began aggressively interrogating me about what I did for a living.
Oh, you only do that? Haha, I'd be a much better partner for someone like him because I do X, Y, and Z and understand him better.
I am totally taken aback by her sheer audacity. She continues and even follows me around the park where the party was and finally got visibly and verbally angry with me for stealing a man her age from her, which was insane. She asked me what my plans were with him, so I decided to deal with her and I replied, I don't have any plans. I'm just using him for loud, dirty, nasty sessions of doing the deed. Nice to meet you. Have a good day. She was so shocked she tripped. She never bothered us again, which was nice. At least in the second story, the other woman didn't try and fight the OP in some sort of winner-take-all battle royale. But if a situation like this were to happen in your own life, with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, whatever, and somebody who knows that they're with you is aggressively trying to flirt with them, trying to get them to leave you, how would you handle that situation? Let me know down below in jerk or not a jerk and why. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend to get rid of her creepy dummy? I'm a 22-year-old male, my girlfriend is 21. She loves horror. She told me about 3 months ago that she read Goosebumps in elementary school and it sparked a lifelong interest in horror. And that when she was a kid, all she ever wanted for birthdays and Christmas was a replica of Slappy, the creepy ventriloquist dummy. I'm kind of a wimp about that stuff and I think the dummy thing is frankly insane, but I like her enough to ignore it. Until last week, her birthday, when her mother bought her a Slappy replica. She's afraid of dummies, hence why she never got it for her as a kid. My girlfriend was thrilled. You would have thought her mom had handed her the keys to a Tesla with the way that she was acting. She was literally crying with happiness. When she saw the expensive necklace that I got her, she just said, thank you. She is totally obsessed with the dummy. Her roommate thinks it's hilarious and she carries it around her apartment like a teddy bear and even sleeps with it on her bed. I kind of snapped last night when I went over and she was holding the dummy when I answered the door. I told her it was creepy and she was being weird about it and she needed to get rid of it. I'll admit, I raised my voice a little bit. My girlfriend started crying and her roommate told me to leave. My roommate and friends have been texting me saying I'm not supporting her and the dummy is harmless. My girlfriend herself hasn't reached out to me, so am I the jerk? This story isn't over because in a strange turn of events, the people that this post was about actually ended up seeing this post and replied, LMAO Matt, did you seriously not think either of us would see this post? You only learned about this subreddit because V showed you some of the posts in here in an attempt to get you to engage in any of her interests. Makes sense why you only care about it when it could benefit you. I don't know whether this is some passive-aggressive power move to get V to text you back or if you're just that desperate for someone to agree with you. But either way, I don't think it's working out like you hoped. Certainly works well for me since now I don't have to worry about biting my tongue for her sake. Then the section was quoted that said, until last week, her birthday, when her mother bought her a Slappy replica, my girlfriend was thrilled, and when I gave her a necklace, she just said thank you. They continued by saying, of course she was excited. It's something that she had wanted for years, and the fact that it came from her mother also made it special since she hates the thing. And you can act all wounded about her not being as thrilled about the necklace, but we both know that you're intentionally leaving out the fact that V told you in the past that she doesn't like wearing jewelry. She doesn't like how a lot of it looks, and she has sensory problems with it. And no one asked you to spend $1,000 on a necklace that looks like an Amazon logo for a girl that you've been with for less than 7 months, dude. To be honest, it was just kind of weird. Quoting the part where he said, I kind of just snapped last night when I went over and she was holding the dummy when she answered the door. Kind of, a little bit, you blew up. The people from across the way came to check in on us after you left because of your yelling. Rather than talking to your girlfriend and expressing your reservations like a normal person, you bottled it up and then let it out on her with no warning. I know for sure V is done with you, but honestly, for the sake of your future relationships, I hope that you grow up and learn to communicate without alerting everyone in the building of your issues. Also, get better taste. Goosebumps is awesome. You're the jerk. Oof, this person came in and lit the OP up. Posts like these always remind me that there's always a bit of bias from the person telling the story because because it's their perspective. From the way the OP sees it, he did this really kind thing and bought her a very expensive necklace that cost $1,000, which is pretty wild from both perspectives, but from the perspective of the other person, they think it's weird because it's been less than 7 months, but more importantly, it's something that he's buying for her because he thinks that she should like it instead of listening to her actual interests, which include Slappy the dummy. I mean, they even point to that in the section before where they say you only learned about this because V showed you some of the posts in here in an attempt to get you to engage in any of her interests. And then of course the fact that he got way more mad at the opening of the door holding the dummy than he originally explained. And by the way, if you want to see a picture of the dummy, I'll throw it on the Am I the Jerk Twitter account. So now you see two perspectives on this story. Let me know what side of the fence you sit on, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for dropping our dinner on the ground and walking out when my boyfriend asked me, "What's for dinner tonight, B?" I was over at my boyfriend's apartment this weekend and I was cooking dinner because he was studying for exams. I made pasta and chunky sauce with meatballs and veggies. I told him dinner was ready and he goes, "What's for dinner tonight, B?" with a lot of emphasis on the last word. I was fed up. I had a pretty rough day with work and I have some awfully bad associations with that word being used by other people in my life who were pretty terrible. So I was so irritated that I dropped the pot of pasta sauce that I'd been carrying right on the ground and said, "Well, nothing's for dinner tonight now, and I better not hear you use that word again. It's for the girls." He was freaking out about how the sauce landed on his rug and he even said, "You're seriously acting like a bee right now. I don't know what else to call it." I just walked out and got takeout for myself and I went to my friend's house. She thought it was funny, but my boyfriend was furious. He kept texting and calling and sending me voice memos trying to explain that "What's for dinner, B" was a TikTok trend and that he was just quoting something as a joke to put it on TikTok. I thought that was the worst excuse ever. It doesn't matter if he saw it as a joke or stole the joke, it was still disrespectful, but it didn't change the fact that he thought that it was still funny. To demean me while I was trying to do him a favor? Like hell, I come over when he was studying to make a home-cooked dinner and he decides it's time for jokes? So I put my phone on Do Not Disturb for the night and split a bottle of wine with my friend and her roommate. The next morning, he was sending me angry texts demanding I clean his rug because he was too busy with exams to do it. I was shocked that he left it overnight. That's disgusting. I texted him back saying, "Yeah, so that's the B tax, honey. Leave me alone until you're ready to handle your own cooking and cleaning because this B isn't anymore. Also, it's vile that you left that soaking in all night." He called me and told me that he was okay with doing his own housework, but I did throw a full pot of sauce at the ground, so that's on me to clean up. I told him, "Yeah, no, I'm not comfortable doing chores for you if you see me like I'm your B." He told me he didn't and it was just a trend, and I got pissed off that he was playing that TikTok trend BS excuse again, and I told him, "Well, I'm starting a trend called saucing, where as a little joke, people throw pasta sauce around. You can't be mad because it's just a little trend, a little jokey joke, just a little prank, bro." He got really pissed and hung up on me, and now I'm seriously wondering if this dumb TikTok joke is going to be the end of things between us. To address some of the comments I've gotten a lot, and I don't have time to reply to everyone, starting with, "But did you tell him not to call you a B? Like, how would he know otherwise?" Honestly, if someone has gotten to the age of 30 and not realized that women, as a whole, do not like having demeaning slurs used against them, they're beyond my help. This isn't something that needs to be told. I shouldn't have to go through life like, "Hey man, just in case you were thinking I might like demeaning slurs against my gender used on me, I don't actually, smile." And if you were about to comment something like that, let me just tell you in no uncertain terms, women do not like being called B's by men. Do not call women B's. If you needed to be told that it is unkind, consider yourself officially told. Now you have no excuse not to understand. So, am I the jerk for how I reacted when my boyfriend asked me, "What's for dinner tonight, B?" Her comeback where she said there's a new TikTok trend where they throw pasta on the ground cracked me up. And yeah, how could this guy leave an entire pot of pasta sauce just soaking into the floor the entire night? Depending on what exact material that floor is made out of, it might not ever come out. And does anyone know, is that actually a real TikTok trend? I've never seen that before, but maybe it was in the past at some point. So let me know if this would bother you if your boyfriend or girlfriend called you a B. In this exact context, would it bother you and and what would you do? Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for telling my fiance that he embarrassed me when he started singing the happy birthday song to his 5-year-old son at the restaurant? I'm a 30-year-old female and I've been with my fiance Ned, who's 36, for a year and a half. He has a 5-year-old son with his ex-girlfriend. They don't have a custody arrangement, but he has him most of the week because his mom is currently sick. His son is lovely, but I noticed that Ned takes him everywhere he goes, including places that aren't child-friendly, and we have an issue with that now, but we're working on it. His son's birthday was 5 days ago. Ned took us out to a restaurant to celebrate. The place was nice and looked a bit unfitting for the occasion because it was a somewhat expensive place. Anyways, we ordered the food and then got the birthday cake, which was a surprise to me because I thought we were going to celebrate at home, so we could be free to sing and play however we wanted. I still had no issue with that until Ned started singing the happy birthday song to his son. I was stunned. I almost dropped my plate. He was singing it at the top of his lungs, not even looking around or paying attention to how many people were staring at us awkwardly. I felt so embarrassed. I kept whispering for him to stop, but he ignored me. Of course, my future stepson was hyped and a little too active, which isn't good when we're in a public place. I expected the staff, the manager, anyone to get involved and stop him, but no one did. In fact, some woman came up to us and offered that she could help him take a video recording. I wasn't in it at all. I froze in my seat, looking stunned and a little angry. He looked at me a little later, asking what was wrong. I didn't say anything except, "Thanks for finally noticing." He didn't understand what I meant, and I didn't explain until we were in the car. I flat out told him that he embarrassed me the second he started singing in the restaurant. He looked shocked, saying he didn't get why I would be embarrassed by him celebrating his son's birthday and cheering him up. I told him we could have done this at home when we'd be more comfortable and free. He took it as in I was ashamed of him and his son, but I denied it and said that it just felt awkward and embarrassing. Maybe because I've never been in this situation before, and also judging from the restaurant we were at. He said that his son's mom is sick and he's trying to do all he can to cheer him up, and that all families do that and no one had an issue with it except me. Then when I tried to explain, he got mad and said he no longer felt like talking. We haven't been speaking since then. It appears he's still salty about me saying what I said and insisting that I see him and his son as an embarrassment. I think he's being too harsh with the whole ignoring me thing instead of talking it out. But am I the jerk? Huh? I don't exactly understand what she's angry about. I get that she's not used to this meaning singing happy birthday in a public restaurant, but it's a little kid. His mom is sick, his parents are separated, he's with his dad, and it's his birthday, and I can't possibly imagine why singing happy birthday to this kid would be anything that would be wrong. Even if you did feel embarrassed, which is perfectly valid, that's what you felt, it's strange to think that your mild, temporary discomfort is worth overriding this little kid's birthday. The way I see this, it really comes down to a question of who gets to have the discomfort. Should it be you, the person telling the story, the adult, or the little kid? And I know the OP probably doesn't see it like that. They see it as some sort of conflict with the dad, but that's the way it seems to boil down to me. The top response to this says, he gleefully sang happy birthday to his child whose mother is sick while you sat there sulking in your anger. Are you applying to be the evil stepmother by any chance? You prioritize not being embarrassed over a fun moment between a father and his son. The restaurant staff didn't think it was inappropriate. It doesn't seem that you are a good match for someone with kids. But let me know how you see the situation. Maybe you think that she's totally in the right. Let me know down below, jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for telling my sister she overreacted when she screamed at me for entering her and her husband's room? I'm a 23-year-old female and I'm a full-time college student. Right now I live with my sister Claire and her husband Thomas while I get through my current semester. I don't work, so I don't have everything I need for my daily skin and hair routine, so I borrow stuff from Claire. Claire didn't have an issue in the beginning, but then started complaining about me randomly walking into her room, but I go in there looking for the stuff I asked for. She gave me a hard time just because I walked in on Thomas half exposed to get the eyeshadow that I borrowed from her. And then that other time when I walked in late at night, she told me I needed to get permission from her to enter the room before I take anything, but I figured this would make things complicated. It's enough that I have to ask to borrow an item. So last night at around 10 p.m. I went upstairs and into her bedroom and I grabbed the hairdryer. I walked in and whoops, I saw them in an intimate intimate position together. I had no idea they were doing it, especially since Claire told me that Thomas has been feeling sick the past 2 days. She lashed out at me, yelling that I get out. I quickly grabbed a hairdryer and then walked out and shut the door. Minutes later, she came downstairs in her robe and went off on me, saying that she was done with me repeatedly disrespecting and violating her and her husband's privacy. I told her it was cool, no big deal, and that I needed the dryer, but I didn't have time to ask for permission. She got even louder, saying that I had no business barging into her marital space and embarrassing her and her husband like this. I told her that I was sorry, but she really overreacted to this whole thing. This made her more pissed, and she went on about how I'm living here rent-free and yet not being respectable enough. I stopped arguing and went to my room. This morning, Thomas left the house early, and Claire ignored me at breakfast, still upset, saying that I don't get to say whether she overreacted or not and my behavior was inappropriate. She even wants me to apologize to her husband for making last night awkward. Am I the jerk? If you're living at the expense of somebody else completely for free, you're gonna have to live by their house rules, and she's not asking much. All she's saying is, don't come into my room, give me privacy, I'm letting you live here for free, don't do this. But the OP here seems to be hyper-focused on the fact that her sister is overreacting. When you tell someone not to do something and they do it, and then you tell them not to do it again and they do it again, for most people, you're beyond the point of normally reacting. You go into overreacting territory, but it's warranted at that point because she's told the OP multiple times not to do this. It's not that complicated. So who's in the right, who's in the wrong, jerk or not a jerk, and why? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories in this series, use the playlist at the top of the description. And next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search for Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever music platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your stream. It's free, Cream of the Stream. Either way, thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you guys next time.